Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am so pumped you're here today because we are unpacking something truly fascinating. We're looking at a highly unconventional, honestly kind of contrarian philosophy on creativity and innovation, drawn straight from our source material today. If you've ever found yourself wondering how to break through stagnation, whether that's in your personal creative projects, your business, or even looking at the macroeconomic level, this explainer is going to offer you a completely fresh paradigm. We are going to systematically break down exactly how the source redefines the very laws of creation. Okay, so let's just dive right in. Where do our absolute best ideas actually come from? I mean, we've all been sold this deeply ingrained image of the light bulb moment, right? You know the trope. You're completely zoned out, just doing nothing, and suddenly, bam, genius strikes out of thin air. Well, the text we're analyzing today completely shatters that illusion. Waiting around for inspiration while you're just totally detached? Yeah, that is a recipe for producing absolutely nothing. Now, to be fair, the text does acknowledge this classic ancient Chinese concept known as the three ons. Historically, it was said that ideas come to you in three specific places: on a horse, which is basically today's morning commute, on a pillow as you're falling asleep, or, well, on the toilet. The modern equivalents would be taking a long walk or just sitting in a quiet cafe. But, and this is a massive catch, these relaxed physical states are completely useless without a very specific, intense precursor. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit the paradox of inspiration, then move to the power of reverse thinking, explore rhythm, focus, and relaxation, look at navigating the information flood, and wrap up with innovating through the crisis. Let's get to it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the paradox of inspiration. The source grounds true inspiration in this intense do-or-die mindset. In Japanese, they call it shinken shobu, which literally translates to fighting with real swords. Think of the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi and his extreme life-or-death duels at the Yoshioka Dojo or Ganejima. The text argues that this exact same extreme, necessity-driven passion is the inescapable prerequisite for creative breakthroughs in your work today. So the crucial point here is this incredibly powerful duality that forms your creative engine. That relaxed state we talked about, the walk, the shower, the cafe, that is merely the environment where the idea finally breaches the surface. But the do-or-die passion, that is the heat source underneath the surface. It's that intense, necessity-driven thought process. Look, if you haven't been sweating over a problem, thinking about it with the intensity of a life-or-death duel, that quiet walk in the park just isn't going to give you a light bulb moment. And there's this really fascinating tactical application of this mindset too. Rivals, enemies, they should actually be viewed as a mirror reflecting yourself. I know it takes a lot of courage, but by actively using their critiques to improve your own weaknesses, you literally turn their negativity into a treasure trove of new creative ideas. You don't crumble, you humbly accept it, and you adapt. Moving right along to Section 2, the power of reverse thinking. So how do we tackle massive political and economic dead ends? Well, the source advocates for what it calls reverse thinking. Basically, looking at massive problems from the exact opposite perspective to unlock solutions. Here's a perfect example regarding the economy. The standard view during a slump is that a strong Japanese yen is a massive threat to exports. But applying reverse thinking, the author neutrally posits that a strong yen should instead be seized as an opportunity to establish it as a key global currency. It flips the perceived crisis entirely on its head. This whole contrarian vibe, it extends right into how we handle societal stagnation too. In business, the text suggests adopting the paradoxical view that sometimes supposedly useless things can actually sell for the absolute highest prices if they are marketed creatively. And on a societal level, the text notes a pushback against socialistic big government trends. Instead of conforming to that, the author argues for maintaining strong individuality and true self-reliance. The core message here is to forge ahead and create new value without yielding to whatever the public criticism of the day happens to be. All right, Section 3, Rhythm. Focus, and relaxation. Now, to actually pull these contrarian ideas off, you need some serious dedication. The text uses Thomas Edison as a historical anchor for this. Edison didn't fit into the traditional schooling system, right? He was different, and becoming a highly creative person requires this exact fearlessness in being different, coupled with this intense passion to immerse yourself completely in what you love. Plus, executing these unconventional ideas requires you to fluidly switch mindsets, shifting back and forth between planning your ideas and the judgment required to evaluate them. And this is where the text introduces the concept of a creative rhythm.
You absolutely have to oscillate between intense concentration, like immersing yourself completely in your work or research, and complete relaxation, where you physically and mentally step totally away from it. It is only in the rhythmic pulsing between these two extremes that flashes of true insight can actually be caught.
But wait, how do you make sure those flashes of insight are actually good? Well, the text recommends a two-step process to expand your receptacle, basically your overall capacity to receive inspiration. Step 1, you must master orthodox studies and foundational knowledge. You got to know the rules first. But then, step 2, you must actively cultivate a broad interest in fields entirely outside your expertise. The collision of your orthodox foundation with completely unrelated fields. That is what sparks true innovation. Which brings us to Section 4, navigating the information flood. Look, we live in an era of complete information overload, right? Phones, the internet, just a constant 24/7 barrage of stuff. The author makes a really compelling argument here that to be truly creative today, information blocking is just as vital as information gathering. You literally have to intentionally shield your mind. So it's a strict balance. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a tightrope walk. On one hand, you've got information gathering. The text encourages training yourself to parallel process information, reading multiple books and absorbing totally diverse data. But on the flip side, you have to rigorously practice information blocking. If you just consume the flood constantly, your mind is merely reacting to it. You have to intentionally cut off the flood to create the quiet, isolated space your brain actually needs to synthesize that data into an original thought. And finally, Section 5, innovating through the crisis. Here is where the source material gets pretty surprising. Coming from the perspective of a religious leader stepping way outside conventional boundaries, the text takes a remarkably uncompromising stance on business leadership. It argues that using phrases like a once-in-a-century crisis as an excuse for poor performance, totally unacceptable. In fact, a severe recession is framed as the exact ideal moment for leaders to rack their brains, actively fight back, and trigger sweeping management innovation. The text outlines some highly concrete actions for companies to not just survive, but actually thrive during these downturns. Instead of retreating, organizations should aggressively strengthen their sales force and invest heavily in human resource development. The goal is to clearly and unmistakably differentiate yourself from your competitors, who, let's face it, are probably pulling back. On a broader scale, the text calls for an end to imitating foreign models, urging a break from what it describes as post-war constraints and demanding sheer differentiation. And this all culminates in the author's ultimate call to action. It's specifically directed at Japan in the source text, but honestly, it's universally applicable. The quote is, "Japan must graduate from the stage of imitating foreign countries and trigger innovations to set an example for the world." It's a massive, grand vision, a true determination to use this do-or-die mindset, this reverse thinking, to literally spark a new civilization of innovation that radiates outward globally. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to reflect on today. Take a hard look at your own projects, your career, or your business. Are you just sitting around waiting for some relaxed light bulb moment to miraculously save the day? Or are you ready to cultivate that do-or-die focus, balance it with intentional rhythm, and use reverse thinking to innovate right through your own crisis? The blueprint is definitely there, but the passion, well, that has to come from you. Thanks so much for exploring this incredible paradigm with me. Keep learning, keep focusing, and I will see you in the next explainer.